Hello there, and welcome to Fixing the Sequel Trilogy. Usually a Writers' Room podcast, but today a reaction and review podcast for the season finale of Ahsoka, episode 8. It's finished, it's done. We're going to do the entire recap of this episode, and then our overall thoughts of the season. So why wait? Let's just jump into it. Episode 8, the finale. What do we think of it?
I'm pretty disappointed.
Really?
Yeah.
Shit. Sandro?
I was like, I was on the fence.
Shocker.
Shocker. But then after I was kind of like falling off it near the end of the episode.
Okay.
And I think something at the very tail end of the episode sort of brought it back to me and made it feel like a bit more like full. But yeah, I mean, let's just jump into it.
I personally, overall thoughts, I actually really enjoyed the finale. I thought it succeeded in some ways and failed in other ways. But let's start at the start. The episode begins with, I think, Thrawn, and a pretty badass scene between Thrawn and Morgan Elsbeth.
Yes. Is her promotion scene straight up?
Promotion scene? No,
Yeah,
that's
no.
later in the episode. It's them talking about Ahsoka
Yes.
and planning to take her down and everything, sending out the TIE fighters, and the TIE fighters leave. And it's this whole epic thing. Maybe she does get promoted right at the start, actually.
That's when she gets her
Yeah, she gets
Night Mother powers.
Yeah, Gift of the Shadow, and she gets the cool fucking magical flame blade sword, it's green, and she gets
Flame
her
sword.
black eyes. It was pretty cool. I thought it was a pretty cool opening.
Probably the most interesting thing that's happened to her character.
Yeah, I've been a pretty big detractor of Morgan Elsbeth, and later on in the show when we found out she's gonna die, I was like, yes, this is brilliant. It was really funny. But, so that happens, it's the intro to the show, and then we get the title card. The Jedi, the Witch, and the Warlord.
Yep.
Which I'm not a fan of at all. I did not think that was a good
I
choice.
think we all kind of laughed. It's just a very strange
Yeah.
title card, especially when you get a title card far, far away.
Which is perfect.
And it's-
One of my favorite
my
title
God.
cards on any Star Wars media ever.
Hey, look, they've had a lot of fun with the titles, obviously.
They have had a
This
lot
show.
of fun, for sure. Earlier on in the season, I noticed this. I rewatched some of the episodes. So that it was Fallen Warrior, which I thought was a perfect title for the episode where she falls, and then you're talking about Anakin, Fallen Warrior. They changed it to Shadow Warrior. Is now the title. They changed the
They
title
changed
of the
the
episode.
name. Did they change it
Oh.
in the episode though?
Yeah, no, it's a different title card now. I went
that-
back and rewatched it.
They do
Are
that.
you
So
I'm certain because I
Yeah.
was like, "What the fuck?" That's
so
really
weird.
weird. Anyway, there's a little thing for you guys.
But also
Shadow Warrior.
Shadow Warrior,
Fallen Warrior seems so
such a better title.
Is it because it's a
poetic. Yeah.
spoiler? Is that you shouldn't have done that in the first place?
It's not
then.
really a spoiler.
Not really. No,
Ugh. This I don't like.
I don't like
how-
they can change things.
No, I
yeah,
know. Like-
the digital media stuff.
Yeah, literally, it's really annoying.
You
like
can't
Jeans
trust it.
Guy.
Jeans guy, just
Yeah,
getting rid of Jeans
and the problem
guy.
is that they never released it on DVD.
Jeff
So
Blue Jeans, yeah.
yeah, so if I wanted, that Mando episode on DVD where I can see Jeans Guy in the background, I can't have it.
You can't have it.
Tell you what though, George Lucas would love this. Complete creative control.
Oh God, man, he just
One day you won't even remember that there wasn't a special edition. Famous words. Okay.
Okay.
So that's the start of the episode. That's the title card, and then we move to Ahsoka and Sabine. To be honest, the early parts of this episode are kind of blurry for me because it was kind of moving a bit slow. They send out the TIE fighters. Oh,
No.
they're building the lightsaber. That was pretty
Building
cool.
lightsaber, yeah.
yeah, that's cool. We got a bit with Hugh Yang and Ezra, and Ezra has no idea who the fuck this droid is, and he's just like, it's funny that whole interaction reminded me of R2 and Yoda. On Dagobah.
No, they're
There's-
actually, yeah,
there's like,
yeah.
it's like, no, let go. And we've got crazy Ezra and Hugh Yang's like, stop making a fucking mess in my workshop. I'm just
Great.
trying to build a lightsaber.
And then we get the moment where they realize, oh, Kanan Jarrus was your master. Very nice character moment, and he gets the same hilt that Kanan Jarrus used. It was a
Yeah.
backup piece, which I thought was a really great way to kind of bridge those characters through Hu Yang. That was very sweet, very touching, and very cool because he ignites the lightsaber, and it's like, fuck yeah.
We get a bit more of a timeline. We get a bit of exposition from
We
Hugh
do.
Yang about
The Purge of
Sabine
Mandalore,
and the Purge of Mandalore.
which is very interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
We find out that it's actually after the Empire was defeated.
Seemingly
yeah.
a part of Operation Cinder,
Yeah.
if you were to assume. And
Which is nice. That's so simple. We
Yeah.
finally actually have an idea.
people have been
of
theorizing about it for
timelines.
ages, and I think people are pretty much close on to that
Yeah.
being the timeline, but to get a confirmation of that's pretty cool. It's handy to know.
I don't
Yeah.
know why that took so long.
I don't
think-
either.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty neat. It's a very nice, easy to fit in thing, especially since they were talking about Gideon, I think 2 episodes ago in that, the start of that New Republic room.
Yeah.
But something I raised when we were watching, I'm just it seems like with that motivation in mind, and if that's what was pushing Sabine sort of away from her Jedi training, why wouldn't she join Bo-Katan in the hunt for Gideon?
Yeah, since all of her family died in
That's
the purge.
A good question, my friend. I hadn't thought about that. There's Mandalorians out there. They're alive.
Yeah,
and
they're alive,
Some of them
yeah.
have Bo-Katan. I guess, are their families against each other?
No, they team up in Rebels.
Yeah, last time we see them in Rebels,
Bo-Katan,
like
Kryze, and
they're united
the Ren.
under fucking Sabine and Bo-Katan and
Right.
Sabine gives Bo-Katan the Darksaber.
gives it to her. Oh, look, this is before they'd gone and like retconned
Mm.
everything. But anyway, we have the idea now that between the 3 or 4 years between Rebels and when the Siege of Mandalore would have happened, we know that, yep, okay, so Sabine was training with Ahsoka. That's all well and good. And then it all goes downhill when it gets scorched. And then we've had 5+ years of
Exploring
Nothing.
those sort of around that kind of story.
yeah.
But so we get that reveal, and Sabine talks to Ahsoka. They're talking on the deck of the ship about the Force, continuing to like try and pursue Sabine's training of like, ignore the lightsabers. It's about your body and your mind.
Yeah.
You know?
But it's also these two have a moment now together. First actual time to talk since
Since leaving,
since Ahsoka died, since
Sabine gave the map to Baylan Skoll.
yeah, and Ahsoka knows that, and she's like, are you mad? And she doesn't even give her a I'm disappointed. It's just
Yeah.
like, I made some hard decisions in my time with my master, Anakin. Yes, Anakin. Yes, thank you for reminding us that Anakin was Ahsoka's master. In case we forgot,
It's cool. It's cool to get the name drop. It's fun,
It's
but it's
stupid.
like at this point it's overused.
You guys felt that way? I didn't even.
bad
thought it-
writing. We don't
I
need
thought
that.
it was fine. I
I
didn't
felt
catch
like
it.
it was like ham-fisted. Like they're
Okay.
just trying to like shove in Anakin.
Hey, remember that guy you love?
Hey, remember that guy?
Anakin Skywalker? Anyway.
we all
name
love
dropping.
Anakin.
Yeah.
It's just like,
So, yeah, I have that moment, and she's like, I will be there with you no matter what. Which I thought was very sweet and somewhat of a nice resolution for their two characters as master and apprentice across this show.
Yep.
And we get more of that later,
yeah.
but
Yeah, and we do also have that thing you said come full circle with like Ahsoka's arc is trying to learn to train, not for the sake of fighting.
But-
train your body, train your mind.
yeah, which is nice. And then TIE fighters come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
which is great.
Well, they sent them in.
They sent them in. And so Ezra walks out. He's like, hey, guys, check this out. And he's like, oh, shit, TIE fighters. And they hit the ship. We get a really cool force push of them holding up the ship. I thought that was really neat.
Oh yeah, because they're escorting the little villages of the
They are
hermit
trying
crabs.
to get them to safety. I don't know what's the go there, why they're escorting them, or why they have to fly near them, or
Because
hang out with
hermit
them.
crabs-
or-
they're just traveling with them.
It's like they're traveling with them, but they didn't
They're
establish why.
Ezra's friends,
I guess they're Ezra's friends. It's fine. It doesn't really need to be answered. But the shit jets off and hits both TIE fighters, which I thought was
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Well, yeah.
And it
Sabine
crashes.
flies it. To,
Yeah.
I don't know. That's like another.
I think it's cool.
She's done a whole season of not wise choices, and then here they are trying to. They know they're on a time crunch. They know they need to get to the
right.
Star Destroyer,
Mm.
and they have this super fast transport. And she thinks, best way to get rid of these TIE fighters is to just fly my ship into their ships, and I've disabled my ship.
Yeah.
Right, you're angry that
They're-
she fucked the shit.
I'm angry
ship
at how stupid they're making her. She's not this stupid.
I don't think it was that stupid. I feel like this is more of a plot contrivance where it's like, oh, the ship's got a little bit of engine juice in it. And she's like, all right, I've got one thing I can do, jet it into and crash the ship to save our lives and kill the TIE fighters. Great. So that's the plot contrivance. And now they have to ride their wolves, just the 3 Jedi, over to the temple. Great. Now we've got our plot. We can get away with the rest of the episode. They can't just fly over there and solve the problems. Look, they want to make Thrawn smart, and this is kind of how they got to do it. I've got no defense other than that. That's it.
I feel that then feels like one of those like, our heroes don't feel that strong because our villain is weak. Or this one is our villain doesn't feel that strong because our heroes are being stupid.
Yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky to write stuff like this, but I feel like they did a good job of making Thrawn look really smart, maybe at the cost of some intelligent plot decisions, I guess,
Yeah.
is where we're at.
But I guess the idea of sending those TIE fighters there in the first place was to slow them down,
Yeah,
was to
for
damage
sure.
their ship.
For sure.
So in a way, he sort of succeeded.
Oh, absolutely. Thrawn definitely succeeded. It's just in the way that the plot plays out. It's just a bit contrived, I guess.
Yeah,
It's
right.
kind of how it feels sometimes. They ride their wolves.
Yes.
They ride their wolves, cuts to Thrawn. He sends hellfire, as
Yeah.
he would say.
Yeah, rain hellfire on them. Yeah.
He says he sends down the squadron of stormtroopers. Is like, these people volunteered. Yeah, cool, and we'll protect them.
Yeah.
And we're like, ooh, how are they going to be protected? I knew exactly what was going to happen.
Yeah, I didn't actually catch that line at all. They said like they understand like the cost, right? And she's like they're willing to lay down their lives for the Empire. I'm like, oh, that's cool. They're like suicide mission. Great, that's sick. I didn't catch the line about they'll be protected though. I
Yes,
missed
yeah.
that.
Thrawn says something.
What were
and
they?
it's like,
Some kind of suicide squad?
Oh my god.
anyway, people have theorized all show that they're finally going to do zombie troopers.
Which they did,
Yeah.
which was actually pretty sick.
It was pretty cool.
So Sabine, Ezra, and Ahsoka fight their way through. They use the Force to open up the doors. They get in, and then this was a weird cut. I think they missed a little bit of Conti here because they ride in. Cool, they ride in.
Next
they
time
send
we
the
see
troopers
them.
down, and then the next time they see them, it's mid blaster fight.
Yep.
There's no shot of them running down the stairs to start firing their blasters. It's mid fight. We didn't need it. It was a tiny bit
Does
jarring.
it cut back and then cut back into the room?
It cuts back to Thrawn. It's like send down the troopers, and then it cuts back, and the troopers are shooting them like
Oh,
immediately.
okay.
There's no like little intercut shot. But yeah,
There's a few moments in there as well, though. So like, Thrawn and everyone else basically load up. We know the ship's ready to
yeah.
go.
So we're done loading up. We're good.
And then including like the three like mothers of the Night Sisters, except they tell Morgan to stay.
That comes just after they beat the troopers. But
Right.
yeah, all of this big action set piece kind of blends into one. But they say we need a little bit more time.
Yeah.
Just as they're getting to the top of the tower.
Well, there was something else that really annoyed me.
Yeah.
So they said at the start of the episode that the ship is ready to go. Then they get the hyperspace ring to come down to them to then fly it all back up. Did the Star Destroyer not have even that much power to get up into space itself? It didn't need to wait.
You know what? I didn't think about that.
No, this is this is so many reasons why this episode annoyed me, and it's stupid.
You
No, that's
reckon-
so fair.
It's so fair. So you reckon that the Star Destroyer could have just flown up into the ring? Yeah, no,
Yep.
it makes sense.
I can't argue with that at all.
I can't see that being like explained other than like
Plot
some
contrivance.
plot contrivance.
They
Yeah.
needed to
Like,
delay more to
it
give the
needed
heroes an
to-
opportunity.
No, that is such a fair criticism. I hadn't even thought about that because they spend so much time with these little steps that Thrawn has to make in order to get off the planet.
Does it make for like a cool time crunch in the episode? Yeah.
Yes,
Yes,
but if you start to think about it,
Yeah.
then you kind of break it down. You're like, why didn't the ship just fly off, making all of this conflict null and void because they're just trapped in the tower.
And this would be
fighting
one of those
stormtroopers.
scenarios with how I know our writing process goes, where one of us would bring that up, and then we'd go back to square one
Like,
because that's
"Ah,
what you
fuck."
have to do.
Now we got to go back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
God damn it! Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, we've got freedom, but freedom and
If
time.
we have
and-
freedom, they have the Disney the hand, the big gloved hand.
yeah.
Anyway,
So they start fighting stormtroopers. Yeah,
and it's
they-
cool. It's
yeah.
really, really cool.
All the
I'm
action's really cool. I really like the action of the them on the walls.
The
coming
wolves
through the
like
fire.
dodging through blaster bolts. I thought was pretty sick. The
It
visuals
looked really
look great.
smooth.
It's just like a cool. It felt very pulp action to me. A lot of this because it's like, okay, we got to get inside the tower. We're in the tower. They're shooting at us. We got to get through the troopers. The troopers are zombies. We got to shoot the zombie troopers. We run up the stairs. Now it's Morgan Elsbeth. Boss fight room. Great. And then it just continues to escalate. Then the tower explodes. They got to jump onto the new ship. A lot of really great pulp action does this extremely well. Where it's like, what's the most crazy thing that can happen? Let's do that. And you just continue to do that and do that. And I really enjoyed that. Was it contrived? Yes. Can I ignore that a little bit to enjoy it? Absolutely I can, because some of these fights were insanely good. I was very impressed, especially with the fucking green flame blade. That shit rocks.
Mm.
Oh, did we mention the green flame blade?
Yeah, right at the start.
Oh,
It's
okay,
like
right,
she
yeah,
gets the
yeah.
cool. They make a fucking katana out of green flames, and then she holds it, and it's on fire. And I'm like, yeah, this is pretty D&D. I'm
Yeah,
here
yeah,
for this.
yeah.
Because like I've always been iffy on the Night Sisters, but if you give me a cool flaming sword, I can't say no.
Aren't there red witches in D&D?
Yeah, but then
Yeah.
there's D&D. It's magic.
Yeah, anyway. Okay, so they mow down these stormtroopers, and then boom, resurrected.
Yeah, which was really cool. I was like iffy. I'm like, oh shit, they're doing zombie troopers. I've seen this in Clone Wars and I didn't like it. But, I'm a sucker, so I love it here.
Yep.
Um,
And then they're going to run up the stairs and fight off these zombie troopers and then block doors, and then they cut through doors, and you keep running and block. Anyway, yeah.
I think it's worth bringing up the thing we were talking about.
Oh, what we
Where-
were complaining about in the episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they could have just cut off limbs.
So this is a problem that it took me out of it. It's like, we've set up that they're zombies. You can see their evil, nasty faces under the helmets. And they're getting the shit kicked out of them, cut their arms and legs and heads off. And at one point, they do cut a head off, and they have to go behind some rock pillar to hide the head cut. Even though they show the rolling head, it's like, come on.
And they showed like the cauterized part, the neck
Yeah.
cleave
Exactly.
of the rolling head.
Yeah. Disney
It's-
doing Disney things.
The whole point of like making lightsabers safe to watch for kids was the fact that they cauterized the wound like
Yeah.
immediately.
Unless you're talking that one guy.
Unless you're
in
talking
the
that one guy
original
who's
Star Wars.
Has really hot
burns
blood, yeah.
at a million degrees or whatever.
But yeah, no, it's just like this show. I think we could see some lightsaber actual slashes. This show's not as bad as Kenobi was. That
Where it's just really safe.
Where the lightsaber
really
just bounces
kid-friendly.
off the armor.
literally off regular
Yeah.
stormtrooper armor.
And it's not like we're looking for the most gory, violent, cutting limbs off everywhere here and there, like show. We're just looking for some realism when you have a cool laser sword.
But
and you've
also-
seen limbs get cut off repeatedly.
When the Inquisitor zombie was killed, I'm pretty sure Ahsoka didn't like fully cut him in half. She just like slashed his chest,
Yeah.
and that was enough to kill him.
Yeah.
They slashed so many zombies' chests in this episode, and none
point.
of them have that.
I think the difference is it was like the difference between a resurrected corpse and someone like Savage Opress, who is like composed of Night Sister magic. I think is the difference there. Just from my
No,
basic,
I get what you're saying. I agree.
basic understanding
yeah.
of Clone Wars, fucking Star Wars magic shit.
Right, so he was more than the Inquisitor one was more than
Yeah,
a
because
zombie.
he could use the Force, and
Yeah,
he had a lightsaber and stuff, like Savage Opress, because that's what happens to him in the Clone Wars, if
Yeah,
I
right.
recall. He gets slashed and then fucking...
He does have that green.
Yeah, he gets all the mist
okay.
comes out of him.
Yeah, right.
That's where my mind went to anyways.
Yeah, curious.
Okay,
yeah,
so we
right.
get to almost at the top. We're away from the zombies, and then our three heroes come face to face with Morgan Elsbeth.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
And then Ahsoka's like, just me, I'll take this one.
Yep.
Before that,
yeah, sorry.
Ezra and Sabine have their fight at the top, and then
No,
but
that's the same thing.
But Ahsoka's still like fighting troopers down below because
No.
Ezra's already jumped onto the starship. By
No,
the
you
time.
silly bugger. So Ahsoka meets up with Morgan Elsbeth, and she's like, go up to the Thrawn. And Sabine's like, oh, no, we're going to stay together. And she's like, no, I got this. Sabine and Ezra go up to the top to fight the two Dark Troopers. And then she stays
Oh,
down and has the
right.
duel.
She has a duel with her up the stairs.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it's,
No,
all
no,
good.
Also,
okay.
It's
I
a
see
lot
what
of
you mean.
blended action, but yeah.
Morgan was left behind as the last resort.
Yes.
She had one job. Don't let the other two just go because
So yeah, her job was to buy time. And you said, this is really funny to me. I was like bursting out laughing. Thrawn's like, we need a bit more time. And Morgan Elsbeth is a really great moment of her just like, oh, I'm staying here. I don't get to see the Empire succeed and Thrawn return. Sad for me. And then the three great mothers walk past her onto the ship.
Yeah.
It's so funny, dude.
They're like, ooh, sorry about that one, and they just like sideswipe her.
yeah, it's so fucking funny. So yeah, and then she mutters to herself, for Dathomir. And I go, cool, I don't care. I want to see you die. And then she does,
Yeah.
which is great. So they have this, and then the fight is just as good as the episode she's in Mando season 2,
yeah.
where it's the cool staff of Beskar versus two lightsabers. That shit rocks, and this shit rocks too. It's really good.
Except that Ahsoka loses a lightsaber in this fight.
I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was good. Good stakes.
I thought. it was-
And then the troopers do also rock up. But back up top. So yes, Ezra and Sabine overcome two Dark
Zombie
troopers.
troopers.
Yeah. Boom. Beat them. And then
and we see Sabine use the Force
Well,
by herself.
Yeah, she force grabs the lightsaber.
true. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was good. That felt
I-
more like an Empire Strikes Back moment.
I liked it. I felt it was good.
Yeah. But also she killed that zombie trooper by just stabbing it in the head. We're gonna
Yeah.
give that a pass based on what we were previously talking about.
I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So then they're like, "Oh, the ship's taken off. We can jump."
Yeah.
It's just like, "No." Sabine's like, "Yeah."
They go back and forth for a bit, and then they do it. And so he gets his run up. He does a big force jump, and then as he's falling, she force pushes him
Yep.
up onto the ship.
And it doesn't look
looks
janky.
pretty sweet.
I thought it was like, I was like, "Ugh," it was
There's
pretty
a
good.
there's a few moments like that in Clone Wars, and it's like you can get away with that in animation. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, that looks pretty sweet. I thought it looks pretty cool.
The one thing for me is we don't see a whole lot of the force being used like that in live action. The most we see is like Phantom Menace or Attack of the Clones.
They do some big jumps in Phantom Menace.
Yeah, exactly. Like really big, like fucking jumps. It's like, oh shit, I didn't know you could do that. God damn, that's
Well,
a big jump.
I mean, that's the I suppose the cause and effect of like you've got original trilogy and very limited in what they can do, and
Yeah.
then prequels. George is like, fucking Jedi can
Go
do
nuts.
everything.
Yeah. So this is
Force
more
sprint.
of that style, which I thought was pretty cool. Is it
Yeah.
weird that Sabine just kind of unlocked force
Yeah.
powers and then does it? A little bit.
I was
but-
able to sustain belief just because it looked cool.
Yeah.
But like, it is weird that she
It pushes the limit for
she
sure.
just figured out how to pull stuff towards her, and now she's like, yeah, I can do what a Jedi does, basically.
And then so Ahsoka's up on the bridge, and he's like, not bridge, but hangar. But Sabine, you also jump. And we think she's going to.
And the moment comes full circle
Yeah.
where she, earlier in the season left her master behind
Mm.
when they should have stayed together, and now they stay together, which I thought was a somewhat satisfying dramatic arc for the two of them, and they fight off Morgan Elsbeth and the troopers together
Yep.
in
I think
another
it's
banging action scene.
Pretty excellent. Yeah.
The blaster saber combo fucking rules. It's so cool. We're
Yeah.
big fans of that from Jedi Survivor because you can do that as well. It's awesome.
So yes, Ahsoka kills Morgan, and then they're outnumbered. Star Destroyer's leaving, and they're like, "Yeah, cool. We're just gonna jump." And they
do
They
a
jump off
Marty
the edge.
McFly.
Sabine and Ahsoka, get
They
picked up
land
by
on the ship. Classic hero move. Very good.
and stuff.
As the tower gets blasted to pieces, as Thrawn gives the order, he's like, "Nah, get rid of him. We're gone now," which is cool. And it gets the tower gets destroyed, and they fly off into space. The T-16 chasing after them.
And they get up there, and so yeah, they're up in space, and then
Thrawn
Thrawn's-
gives her a phone call.
Yeah.
yeah.
And gives this really awesome
It's a
speech.
great monologue. Just
very
such
fun.
an evil piece of shit monologue. It's awesome.
Yeah, and he's just like, long live the Empire, and then boom.
I have one victory today.
Yeah.
Long live the Empire.
yeah, that's right,
And
yeah.
activates the hyperdrive, and they shoot off, and they leave Ahsoka and Sabine in the dust, the cool ass blue space dust of a giant hyperdrive core. Before, and then Sabine and Ahsoka are like, I guess we lose. We're stuck here. Shit. Let's go back to the planet, and they go back to the little hermit crab people.
Yep.
And now we're in once again the denouement,
The
of
denouement?
the season, as they're wrapping up all of this different stuff. Now that we've had our climax and a big finale. We go through Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati, who heretofore we have not seen
This
The
entire
entire
episode.
in this episode at all. So we see Shin hold her lightsaber up for the bandits, which I thought was a cool shot. I didn't get it, but
I think I think it's implying in season 2 she's gonna lead those bandits or something.
I am imagining you're correct.
yeah. I think
Season
that's it.
2. And we're jumping the gun there.
Let's get to that
Okay,
in a
yeah.
second. Yeah.
And then Baylan, we see him go out to the gates of what's its face from Lord of the Rings, at the border
Yeah.
of the
He's
of
standing on a
Gondor.
big statue of the father from the Mortis arc in Clone Wars.
You guys popped for this. So I was like, oh, cool, man.
No, yeah. So
I missed this entirely, but yeah.
to his left is then the son, and then
shattered
to the right is
statue of the daughter.
yes. And it's interesting because when we go back to the when we're with Ahsoka and Sabine, when they go back to the villages, they go back to the hermit crab people, and they're like, "Hi," and Ahsoka's like, this is where we're meant to be. Ahsoka sees an owl.
Mm.
There's a
It's
white
not
owl.
that owl though.
It's
No, but
an
like-
owl. Space
But-
owl of some
but
kind.
you get what they're doing, right?
No, it's just like they've always explicitly shown the very specific creature,
Yeah.
and they didn't this time.
That would be weird if they did that. They're in a different galaxy. It has to be a different owl.
They show
It's always the same owl. Though.
What?
It's always
it's
the
a force
same
owl. They show an owl, which is like we know it's the daughter. It's the spirit of the daughter that has always assisted Ahsoka, that has always come back to her, for whatever reason.
This is a different cousin.
They're tied in.
It's a cousin, a distant cousin of that space owl.
Yeah. Anyway, space owl. So we see a and that's the first.
I get what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
It's just it's always been the same owl.
It's like a flamingo owl this time. It has like weird, like backwards legs. It's great.
Don't know, they all
Owls?
owls. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
I think so.
No. Anyway. Oh goodness. So where to next?
I think just holding on that for a moment because Baylan Skoll and
Yes,
this reveal
yeah.
is huge. Just the idea. So they're called the Ones. It's the characters from the Mortis arc of Clone Wars, and it's the father, the son, and the daughter. It's kind of some weird religious fucking biblical shit that I'm not a fan of. I've always not been a big fan of the Mortis
it's
arc.
crazy. Two days ago, we had our
Yeah.
episode that will be coming out this Friday.
Yes.
Yes, which is our cutting canon. And we spoke about how the Mortis arc is
Kind of needs to be cut.
too deep.
Funnily enough, it ties it directly into Ahsoka, which is wild because
We're also cutting that.
yeah. So they're these Force demigods, basically, like incredibly powerful Force users, like deeply connected to the Force, who like shapeshift and do Force nightmares and all sorts of weird shit. And Baylan Skoll is following the path of these things to some light way in the distance in the
Oh, it was
mountains.
so Lord of the Rings.
Very Lord of the Rings in a good way. I loved it. But it's very mysterious, and a lot of people online have been theorizing about the Abeloth is what it's called.
I believe so.
So the D&D version is the Aboleth, and then the Star Wars version is the Abeloth, which you guys have been researching into. Apparently, that is the mother of this family.
Well, potentially.
Potentially.
It's interesting. So because that was all kind of in Legends. When they introduced the Ones in the Legends books and comics was around the same time as Clone Wars. That season came out 2010. There was a book series called The Fate of the Jedi. Came out 2009 to 2012. In which, they had mother, father, son, daughter. But we've never seen the mother.
We've
in
never
anything.
seen the mother. We do know that it is canon that blade exists.
The cool
sword that they used to kill the demigods.
Right, yep.
And that sword in EU, and I'm pretty sure they reference it in the Mortis arc that they killed the mother with it. And in EU, they kill the mother with it, and she comes back every 10,000 years or something like that.
Right.
She's like a reoccurring entity of
yeah.
dark side embodiment, something like that, something crazy.
And Baylan mentioned previously in the season, his goal is to reshape everything. It's this stupid pendulum of inevitability that he hates, and he wants to escape it and create something new. So following, theoretically, the mother, or that story of the Ones and these really powerful Force deities could definitely lead there. It's just weird to end the season on that and have these characters stuck in a distant galaxy while Thrawn is returned with Ezra Bridger, which is a huge change to the canon, the lore, and the story of where they're going, especially considering the very strange place that Disney is in at the
It's a
moment.
very huge scale shift on
Yes.
what you'd see from in the galaxy at that time,
Yeah.
which we don't really know too much about. But we also know that they're trying to push into like making Snoke make more sense.
Yes.
But we've heard that when Thrawn comes back to the galaxy, he's going to reunite the Empire. But we already have this idea that in canon, Sidious is already doing that on Exegol.
Yeah.
So it's like, does Thrawn know about Exegol?
Touch the mic stand.
What's going on there?
Yeah, there's good questions. But before, we're going to come back to this, I think. But just
Yeah.
quickly, the last kind of shots is Sabine and Ahsoka standing on the edge of the hills next to the hermit crab people.
Yeah. Even before that.
Oh, before that, you're right. Ezra Bridger escapes the Chimera,
Yep.
Thrawn's flagship, and he flies a Imperial shuttle over to...
It's actually an old Jedi shuttle. It's the Jedi shuttle that Ezra used to get up to the Chimera.
Oh, it's the
in
same
Rebels.
shuttle?
Yeah.
They kept
They
the
just
shuttle the whole
kept-
time, and he's
yeah.
like, fuck you guys, this is going to be poetic as hell. And he
Yeah.
takes that shuttle.
Yeah.
That's golden.
And he's dressed in Stormtrooper armor.
Yeah.
And then so he boards
Flies in,
like
and he-
home one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he sees Hera and Chopper, and it's a pretty cool reunion. I was pretty stoked.
Yeah.
Touching the mic again, Sandro.
My bongo. It hooked.
Una bongo.
So yeah, he comes back, and then also we see the Chimera go to Dathomir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is very, very cool. Seeing live action Dathomir is going to rock, I think.
And then there's a shot over the hangar as
Yeah.
well of all the cargo, which it's bodies. It literally is bodies. I'm telling you now. Again, we won't have it answered.
Melo's so furious that he can't
3
get an answer to
years.
this, but he's so certain that it's
going to be crazy
Night Sister
zombie
bodies.
Crazy zombie bodies.
Zombie
It'd be
bodies.
some sort of body. Yeah. Anyway, but yes, last shot.
Then the last shot is Sabine and Ahsoka on Peridia.
And
Thoughts, Sandro?
Yeah, well, just going back to the Dathomir thing.
Oh, sure, yeah.
We never really get an explanation on what Thrawn's deal is
With the Great Mothers.
with the Great Mothers. They're always like,
We'll
"Thank
do
you."
anything for you.
Yeah, we'll do anything for you. Thank you for like this deal. It's been very good for us.
Yeah.
What has he done? He's crash landed on your planet.
Look, let's just say Thrawn's a monster in the sack.
Yeah,
He's just...
clearly.
I mean, he's a strategist.
He's a master
He
strategist.
knows how to get things done.
He plays the game well.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. But I think it's a
fucking broke Sandro with that.
it's hard to like make a serious point following that.
Tactics.
I think it's like an interesting play on Thrawn being very inspired by Sidious's tactics in manipulating a force that would seem like sort of religious, sort of like has its own culture behind it, and tricking them into meeting your own goals. Because
Gotcha.
like the Dathomir witches aren't like pro-imperial.
No.
They've never been.
They've never been shown to
They
be.
hated Sidious.
They hated Sidious. But you've been able to turn them into being
Like pro-imperial zealots, basically.
basically imperial zealots,
Well, I
just
suppose
like how
those
Sidious
ones-
turns the Jedi.
Yeah.
Those ones weren't.
And that's true as
Anything
well. It's
Sidious,
weird
you know?
because
Like,
they're
they
in a
wouldn't have
different
known.
galaxy.
Yeah.
They
So
wouldn't have been anything Sidious, but they would have still followed just like the sort of core beliefs of what it is to be like a Night Sister and a part of that religion.
To me, like the promise there is that, hey, help me get back to that galaxy, and I'll get you back. I'll get you to Dathomir.
Yeah,
and
like
then-
a galaxy that is alive and not dead. Because they
Yeah.
established that this galaxy that they've gone to this season is a dead galaxy. It's barren. There's nothing here. There's no civilization. So maybe the Night Sisters want to go to Dathomir and rebuild some kind of civilization within a galaxy that has life to it, potentially. But I think there's a big question mark there that I don't even know if we'll get answers to. It's curious to think about.
So yes, last shot, Sabine, Ahsoka, and they're like,
Looking off into the distance.
This
I
is
think
where we're
I
meant to be.
felt Something.
yeah, it was really vague stuff from Sabine, and then
Yeah.
Ahsoka goes also over the hill and looks, and she's like,
Gives a vague Ahsoka look.
and then they look back, and I swear to God, I was so mad, because I thought they're not going to show us what they're looking at.
And then they show us Ghost Anakin.
It's just
They show
it's
Ghost
awful.
Anakin
Like,
kinda
has a
looking.
smirk.
I have a slight pet peeve. Did they not cut back to then Ahsoka for the final shot? Or is
No,
Anakin the final
Anakin's
shot?
the final shot.
Yeah, I have a slight pet peeve of like, I always thought it was cool that Anakin in ghost form has white robes.
Oh, does he?
Yeah,
Okay.
like he does in Return
Return
of
of the Jedi. Ah, I forget.
And it's the only time you get to see Anakin in like white traditional like.
That's wild.
Jedi
I didn't know
robes.
that.
And I think it's nice. It's like poetic to his turn back to the light side.
Oh, true.
Yeah.
Well, that's because they did the remastered version. They
Yeah.
had like the old Anakin
They put
who
him,
was in white robes.
they put him in top,
and
of,
then they just put Hayden Christensen's
they-
face over.
Yeah,
I get
Well,
what
there
you
you
mean.
go.
Yeah,
Well, there
like,
you go.
still Anakin gets put in white robes, I just like I want to see his Force Ghost in white robes.
I like this more because a lot of what they explored in this show is Anakin's complicated relationship with his past and the Force, and how like dark and light lives strongly within him. I love that, and I thought they did a really, really great job of exploring that in episode 5. It's like all of me lives in you. That's the good and the bad. That's who I am, and I think the darker colored robes kind of reflects that as well in an interesting way. I've always liked it. But yeah, that's my take
Okay, so that's it. That's the episode.
overall. Oh, do you want to jump into something?
Yeah, there's like one like last thing there of I still feel like I got this feeling of everything's gonna be pretty alright for Ahsoka, even though she's in a pretty dire
Yeah, there's
circumstance.
definitely a note of hope, which is good.
Yeah, like ending on that note of hope is like a really important, I think, key part of what makes Star Wars really great. And you get this reflection with Sabine, that you guys were talking about before, of like she left her earlier in the episode and she stays
Yeah.
with her instead of going with Ezra at the end. And one of the last lines that Ahsoka gives to Vader before Vader like kills her in Rebels,
Yep.
is I'm not leaving you. I'm not leaving you again. And I think it's
Some kinda, like,
cutting
parallel there.
between the parallel of cutting between Ahsoka and Anakin at the end of the episode, and showing that like Ahsoka was able to teach an apprentice like the lesson that she failed,
Gotcha. That's nice.
and like being able to save her master, I think is like comes around full circle quite nicely and ties up, and like a nice arc for Ahsoka.
That is nice.
In speaking of arcs, I think I want to dive into just like overall season thoughts now.
Yep. Cool.
I think they fundamentally failed to create a compelling Ahsoka story in
Yeah,
the show.
I
And
think
I
they
think
did.
that sucks.
I started this episode by saying I was disappointed in this episode.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed in this show.
Me too. I love this episode as like a fun finale full of action and spectacle. In terms of like an overall season finale and thematic conclusion, I feel like it fails, unfortunately. Which sucks.
Yeah, like with that point I made at the end, I think it's really good,
Yeah.
but I think there's so much more you could have done throughout the entire season to make it feel stronger.
Yes.
I think the pieces are there. I think
Yeah.
the pieces are definitely there. But there's like some stuff with Sabine where Sabine doesn't feel like a super compelling character to follow sometimes for me.
No.
Okay.
And there's stuff with Ahsoka maybe within like that before we get to that like fun Force vision stuff where she's just kind of stuck.
I didn't feel like she got more interesting after that.
Yeah, right.
I felt the whole time Ahsoka was too stoic, too boring, not charismatic.
Yep.
Sabine was way more interesting to me, and even then, it's two characters that you are trying to explore in this show of Master and Apprentice, and neither of them feel fleshed out enough. The show spread itself so thin across all of these different arcs and different places. The plot and the destinations they went to, the adventure was incredible, and I loved what happened and the scope and the change to the galaxy. Overall, that stuff rules. But it's this individual character growth and change and challenge that makes a good story.
Yeah, literally.
And I think they failed there.
Yeah, I lost. Did I even really have emotional connection to the main two characters? I don't think so, because the performances weren't there, the arcs weren't there.
Yeah. If anything, I had more for Sabine. Like, just, like, what was Ahsoka's big challenge? What did she have to overcome? What was the thing that made her change for the end of the show?
At the end of this day, this show to me only accomplished two things.
Yep.
It swapped the positions in a galaxy physically of where Thrawn and Ezra are and where Ahsoka and Sabine are.
Yes.
That's it.
I mean, yeah.
8 episodes.
Yeah.
And
And-
they left me on a cliffhanger. This show left me with more questions than answers. I'm incredibly dissatisfied by it. And now we can talk about the fact that season 2 hasn't even been announced yet. We don't know when Dave Filoni's movie that is meant to tie in his entire Mando universe
It's his
is
movie?
meant to happen.
Yeah,
It's his movie.
It's Mandoverse, like, yeah, it's gonna be his thing.
He's directing
He's
it.
gonna drive it, yeah. And there's that, and then there's also Skeleton Crew, which we also don't have a release date for. There's the whole nebulous state of Hollywood, specifically Disney, within the scope, the landscape of Hollywood right now, and it's all just a big bunch of questions, and we have zero trust in Disney with this property.
Honestly.
It's a big part of the reason we make this show in general. We love ripping on the sequel trilogy. It's like we want Star Wars to be good. We want to enjoy it as much as we can, but we just don't trust the people behind it. Like, Filoni is great. He's a really talented writer, as evidenced by the show.
Yeah.
But it's, I think, the production company behind it that is such a failure and a weakness.
Yeah, honestly. So I'm sorry that we're like being so pessimistic here at the end of this season, but this show is a representative of what I think is such major problems with the
Yes,
Star Wars property.
it comes so close to being great because there's so much greatness within the Star Wars property.
And I think out of all these shows, this is probably the show that became most close to that, just like that Star Wars.
Yeah.
What I imagine Star Wars to be, maybe other than early Mando.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think they're succeeding in different areas where this is a plot-driven, main character-driven story show that's going to change the galaxy as we know it. That should be something we get more often, and that should be something we get at a higher quality, is all I'm saying. Mando's great. The idea of Mando started with him being separate from the galaxy, roaming the galaxy as a bounty hunter. That fucking rules too. Doesn't need to change the state of the galaxy.
Yeah.
I'm going on a big rant now.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating, man.
Sorry, Sandra. I feel like we were,
Oh, no.
looking so sad while we were having that, like...
I think overall, like, I still, like, quite enjoyed the series.
Me too.
And I feel like I did get something from Ahsoka, just maybe not enough.
Yeah.
I care for the character. I feel like she's arced over multiple different shows. But if you're watching this show and you're coming in without watching 7 seasons of fucking Clone Wars,
Or Rebels.
and you're looking for an arc in this show, you're just not quite quite getting it.
Not going to get it, man.
But like, I think if you're looking for an arc that contributes to an arc that's existed for like the past 10 years, then I think you're gonna get something, but still maybe not enough. I enjoyed topics and themes in the show, but
I'm looking forward to season 2 if and when they make it. And I believe that if they do a good job of season 2, it can retroactively increase the quality of season 1. I think they could potentially do a better job and make this show better for having existed. Right now, where we are, it's just left us with so many questions and such uncertainty about the future, where all this is going, what Ahsoka's story, like where it lies in the future.
Yeah.
But it could be better.
One thing that gives me hope about that sort of ending montage,
Yeah,
is that I'd hopefully love to see the second season just following Shin, Balin, Ahsoka, and Sabine.
I wouldn't.
I don't. I think pushing Thrawn into the actual like Star Wars galaxy means that he's that galaxy's problem.
I see what you mean, but we now have Ezra and Hera working together, potentially bringing in Zeb as well. They mentioned he was training recruits, and be like, "Hey, we're gonna get the band back together," while Sabine and Ahsoka are in the other galaxy.
I get what Sandro's saying though, because that could be like the season. So that could be the movie thing. What that movie is meant to be.
True. It could.
Yeah.
And if season 2 is going to be, or should be more Ahsoka, then stay here with Ahsoka, do Ahsoka things.
And just do it right,
You know, if it's the Ahsoka show, maybe focus on that character.
That would be great.
Condense it,
Yeah.
and focus on what you need to focus on.
I would love to talk about the movie now.
Let's talk about the movie.
Because, motherfucker, the biggest problem is they are not going to use Han, Luke, Leia, and Lando. And it just is ridiculous. The idea that Thrawn comes back to the galaxy and those 4 characters are not going to be involved, you can recast them. You can recast these characters.
The number one threat in the galaxy to Thrawn is a person who he's never met before. The person who, while he was away in a different galaxy, changed the shape of everything. Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, and brought the Jedi back.
Yeah, literally. He's his biggest threat, and you're going to tell me that they're not going to come face to face.
I believe that's what they'll do because that's what Disney wants to happen. And it's just so dumb.
It is so silly. I feel like maybe they tied themselves into a hole. I feel like at this point, Star Wars fans probably wouldn't even care. Like, if they ditched the CG Luke and just did a recast.
Do a recast.
There's people who will care.
I don't want to watch a movie of CG Luke.
Yeah.
Do a recast.
I wonder what I'm curious. What's the majority? Would you prefer?
I would love to know the majority as well, but I've
Yeah.
seen both. I've been reading a bunch of Reddit articles. There's people who are like, never recast any of the original cast, just do CG. The CG looks so good in Mando and Boba Fett, just do full CG.
It's a
Doesn't
TV
look that
series
good.
anyway. Like, if you want it to be disconnected from your mainline saga, you can just not watch it. Like, it's a TV series. I feel like recasting is maybe a bit more the more appropriate choice.
Exactly.
I got a question then for the audience for doing audience questions. If you believe in doing CG Luke, what more are you getting out of that than you are out of just a real performance by an actual person?
Because it looks like Mark Hamill.
Cool, it looks like Mark Hamill. What the fuck does that mean? It does. He's
not
a character.
It's not Mark Hamill to begin with.
Exactly. And then beyond that, there's people who are like, no, we don't need the original trilogy. People will hold on to them too much. We can just have these new characters. I understand what you mean, but if you just look at the reality of the galaxy, those 3 or 4 characters are so intimately tied to what's happening as they reshape the New Republic. You can't write a story without them. They already ran into this problem in the Ahsoka series. They had to have Leia involved, so they put in C-3PO.
Yep. People liked that.
People liked that.
People liked that.
I want to throw up in my mouth. This is our biggest rant episode of this review show yet.
It should be. Yeah, I saw some internet stuff and people like that.
That's wild, bro.
Yeah.
That's wild. I was so disappointed. Yeah, but that's. I think I've a lot of our rants kind of out of the way after the show's finished. Do I look forward to rewatching this show? Absolutely, some banging action scenes.
I think I will rewatch the show, which
Yeah,
is more
I'm
than I
gonna.
can say for most Star Wars TV series.
Yeah, no, I'll rewatch this just the same way I watch Mando season 1 and 2 because they're fucking great. They're fun TV. They're good to watch. It's just some major and minor gripes.
I can't wait to watch this, see if I can nitpick on any small details, come back with a bit more retrospective.
Yeah,
And like see if there's like maybe more meaning or maybe things where it seems like some themes were maybe left on the cutting room floor, maybe because of time restraints, budget restraints.
Yeah.
Whatnot.
Until season 2 is even happening, or if it gets closer, I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to be able to rewatch this
That's
and look
so
back
fair.
fondly on this show.
that's so fair, man.
Interesting,
That's
yeah.
so fair. It's the polar opposite of Andor.
like, oh yeah,
Like
yeah,
we
yeah,
can
yeah.
rewatch Andor any day of the
Yeah.
week because
Well,
it's so
that's
good, and we dread season 2
Look-
because it's a different lead creator.
Look, I know that Andor
Yeah.
season 2 is going to happen, but I can also like allow Andor to exist in its universe where it's like season 2 doesn't need to happen, and season 1 is great.
Yeah.
and you don't need season 2
yeah,
anyway.
the Ahsoka season 2, it's like it needs to happen because if it
they've
doesn't,
gone and left.
we have
so
so
much
many unanswered
unanswered-
questions.
Yeah. Anyway.
But I think I think you get the idea. That's our review. I would give it a solid 3 out of 5 on the Bryce Quinn scale.
I can't do halves. I feel like it's not quite a 4, but
It's definitely a 3 for me. It's really good, but overall disappointing.
it's not enough to be a 4.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
it's a
3.
5 out of 10 for Mello.
All right. Well, that's our review of Ahsoka, the Disney Plus series. Hope you've enjoyed listening along. If you have been listening along, if you're going back and re-listening later on, years from now, go check us out on Patreon, baby. That's where we make our money. But until then, we're not going to be doing any more reviews weekly. This is the Disney Plus show. It's done now. We're going to be doing our weekly podcast where we talk about the sequel trilogy and how we're going to fix them in our rewrite. Before the end of this year, we're going to have something solid to show off and read to you. But until then, this has been Fixing the Sequel Trilogy, and may the Force be with you.